Hi, Ariel Clark.
Hi.
We are here at the state of Cannabiz, and Ariel Clark was on a panel today, and it was amazing and awesome, and it was all legally and stuff, and I don't really understand those things, but what I really want to ask you is if you could tell us a little bit more about what is happening with Indian tribes and getting into the cannabis space.
Sure.
Very few people know about that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Tribes in California, there are about 116 tribes in California, 106 depending on kind of whether they're recognized or not and kind of what status they have. Huge swath of the population in the United States is in California. So we're in California, the biggest state, the biggest cannabis state in the country, lots of tribes here, lots of indigenous land here. Tribes in California, in this enormous state, this multi-billion-dollar industry, are excluded right now from the cannabis market to sell into the cannabis market. So all of the economic opportunities that they could enjoy by cultivating cannabis and selling into the regulated market and selling at retail establishments across the state of California to other Californians, they are excluded from that. Tribes were completely left out of Prop 64. The only way for a project on tribal land to sell into the regulated market is if the tribe basically waives its sovereignty, which is their identity as a nation. And it is so completely out of hand, so beyond the pale that in California, where we have clients that are second and third generation farmers, and I know from tribal elders that there are native people who have used cannabis and other plant medicine for thousands of years, that in this state where people are cultivating cannabis and where they are selling cannabis and they're engaged in the retail cannabis market, that there is not a crossover and a fix for projects that are on tribal land through some sort of government to government relationship like we see in Washington or Oregon or other states where the tribes are able to sell into the regulated market and they have figured out a fix, and tribes are good at regulating very highly regulated industries. So tribes unable to do it or not sophisticated enough, which is some of the things that we've been hearing. And also there's all concern amongst the cannabis industry itself, and has been, of a fear, and it comes from this fear of not having enough. Fear that products that are generated from tribal land will be cheaper, and so that they will not be able to compete. When we see other states have created this fix, that we don't have this fix in California is absolutely problematic. That stems from huge amounts of racism that have been endemic in our state, racism against tribes, not thinking about native people as entitled to these ideas of social equity and social justice, which thank God we're having conversations about. But these issues need to be front and center. We're not asking for something special. We're just asking to be able to participate as regulated businesses in the California cannabis market. In good news, I know we like good news. There was federal legislation introduced that would enable tribes who want to participate in the cannabis industry to not be afraid that there are certain federal grant monies would get pulled. So hopefully we'll see that federal legislation progress, because a lot of tribes across the country are a little concerned about, should I get involved in cannabis? If I do, I have these certain government grants and government monies, then will those get pulled? We kind of can't, that seems not worth it. But for a lot of tribes, like for example in California, where 80% of California Indians are at or below the poverty level, and a lot of tribes, their land, of course, is far away from any sort of like metropolitan areas, that could be a great opportunity for cultivation, manufacturing, or other projects. And it also could be a benefit to cannabis operators, because still only 30% of California local jurisdictions, cities and counties in California, are even issuing business licenses. So we have prohibition in 60% of the state. If tribes would be able to issue licenses to businesses that could then sell into the regulated market, that's a win-win for the cannabis industry. So hopefully people in the industry, hopefully people within government, hopefully kind of across the board, we will see that this only is an opportunity that can't be ignored. And in one other piece of good news, the hemp bill, the farm bill, the farm bill.
I totally call it
The farm bill allows tribes to develop their own hemp legislation, just like states. So right now, tribes are in the process of doing that, and they will be able to participate in and have their own projects. They will not need to in any way go and ask permission of the state of California or any state. They just submit a pretty straightforward plan to the U.S. Department of Agriculture like states. So we'll see more opportunities in that area.